Hello students, welcome for my second video related to the topic historiography development in the West. In the previous video we have seen the historical research method, we have seen tradition of historiography, we have seen the four main characteristics of historiography. We have also seen the development of scientific perspective in Europe and historiography, and we have seen three notable scholars, mainly René Descartes, Voltaire, George William Friedrich Hegel. Now let us see the next notable scholar who belongs to the 19th century. He wrote the historiography of the 19th century and he was greatly influenced by the thoughts of Leopold von Ranke of Berlin University. He spoke about critical method of historical research. He put emphasis on utmost importance of information gathered through original document. He stated that all types of documents associated with historical events need to be examined with great care. He believed that with this method, it is possible to reach the historical truth. He criticized imaginative narration of history. Collection of his articles is published in two books entitled, the first one, The Theory and the Practice of History, and in the second book, The Secret of World History. Now, the next notable scholar is Karl Marx. Karl Marx, he belonged to the later half of 19th century. A new school of thought arose, keeping in view the new thesis formulated by Karl Marx. According to the Karl Marx, history was not an abstract idea. It was about living people. Human relationships are shaped by the fundamental needs of the people and the ownership as well as the nature of prevalent means of production to meet those needs. I would like to give an example. Before giving the example, I would say his idea, the idea of Karl Marx. He says there are two groups of people in society, have and have-nots. And there is always a conflict between have and have-nots. And the have-not wins. So, what does it mean? He is stressing on the different strata of society. It may not be equal. He says, have and have-nots. This inequality causes a division in society into two classes, leading to class struggle. According to the Marx, human history is a history of class struggle, as the class that owns the means of production economically exploits the rest of the classes. And this theory he has put forth in his book called Das Kapital. Das Kapital or Treatise, written by him, is most referred book all over the world. The next school of thought is analyst school of thought. The analyst school of thought was originated in 20th century. It was brought by the historiographers from France. And this new school of thoughts which came in, they were known as analyst school. The analyst school gave new direction to history writing. It was recognized now that history is not only a political event, king, great leaders, and accordingly the political diplomacy and war, but also the climate, local people, agriculture, trade, technology, means of communication, social division, and their collective psychology. The analyst school was started by the French historians. Now, the next school of thought which has come in is the feminist historiography. Feminist historiography means restructuring the history from the perspective of women. The writing of Simone de Beauvoir helped in establishing the fundamental of feminism. She was French by birth. According to her, the feminist historiography emphasized not only the inclusion of women in history, but also on the rethinking of the male-dominated perspective of history. It draws the historical research in the focus of various aspects of women's life, such as employment, the role of women in trade unions, in institutions, and the family life. In the historical writings of 1990, women were portrayed as an independent social class. Now, my dear students, last but not the least, I would like to speak about the next notable scholar of 20th century, Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault was a French historian. You know, sometimes people do pronounce as Michel Foucault, but here the T is silent. It should be Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault was a French historian. He brought a new concept in historiography. He, in his book Archaeology of Knowledge, argued the prevailing practice of arranging historical events in chronological order is not right. He drew attention to the fact that archaeology does not strive to reach ultimate historical truth, but attempts to explain various transitions in the past. He felt that explaining the transition in history is very important. He called his method the archaeology of knowledge. Foucault subjected that so far unacknowledged areas by the historians. There are historians who have taken various aspects, but he has taken an aspect, the mental asylum or a prison or doctors, So Foucault subjected that so far unacknowledged areas by the historians, such as psychological disorders, I say mental asylum, science of medicine, doctors, prison administration, the policemen, to historical analysis. Thus, I conclude the lesson by saying that thus the scope of historiography kept continuously expanding. Writing of histories of various subjects like literature, architecture, sculpture, drawing, painting, music, dance, drama, films, and televisions came into practice. So, this is all about the first chapter, that is historiography, the development in the West.